3, 2, 1, 0.
And we
F1
have
motor ignited.
liftoff of Vikram 1, India's first private orbital launch
Liftoff.
vehicle.
There's a Diamond Lotus in orbit right now. 32 stones set in gold. It got up there on the 18th July on Skyroot, the first private rocket in India's history. It wasn't traveling alone. 2 satellites, a robotic arm built to grab space junk, and a stack of postcards, one of them handwritten by the Prime Minister. And everyone is raving about it, even though there was Chandrayaan and every other rocket reaching the moon. Why was this so important? Apparently, it was a tad bit illegal to build the rocket. I went down a rabbit hole. Let's go back to 1947. India has just won its independence and it had little oil, enormous energy needs, and a leadership that believed advanced science was the way out of poverty and out of dependence on the West that had just left. So in 1954, the Department of Atomic Energy was created by presidential order, answering directly to the Prime Minister. It had the money and the access. So that's where India's scientists went to do real serious science. Which is why when a physicist wanted to start a space program in 1962, it didn't get its own agency, it created a committee, INCOSPAR, inside the Department of Atomic Energy. And the physicist's name was Vikram Sarabhai. Sounds familiar? Then, in 1967, a UN treaty, the Outer Space Treaty, made government responsible for whatever their citizens do in space, which created one rule. Every country has to pass its own law before private rockets can fly. 2 years later, 1969, India created ISRO, an agency, not a law, and space stayed inside the Atomic Energy Department for another decade. So every launch meant it was only for the government. Other countries did write the law. The US wrote its own in 1984, the Commercial Space Launch Act, drafted after a private Texas rocket needed sign-offs from more than a dozen agencies just to fly once. India never wrote one, so the ban was never a ban. There was no law to permit private launch. And I'm like, who built a company knowing there's no permit to launch or to apply for? So these two visionaries, Pawan Chandana and Bharath Dhaka, Chandana spent 6 years at ISRO building its biggest rocket, the GSLV Mk3, the type that carried Chandrayaan 2 and 3 to the moon. Dhaka was a flight computer engineer at ISRO at Skyroot. He runs the mind of the machine. He and his team built the computer navigation, the system that steered Vikram 1 into orbit. They had massive funding rounds, and though they were nearly 3 years late launching their rocket, they were successful in their first attempt, and that is rare in any case. SpaceX blew up 3 times before it was successful. No shade. Though 5 minutes before the launch, Skyroot caught a problem, they calmly held for 35 minutes and fixed it. Now, more than 150 companies have applied for licenses. Rocket makers like Aneco, which test flight a single-piece 3D printed engine, satellite builders like Pixel and Space. So a lot more companies are signing up. Okay, what does it do? You would ask. I would ask. Well, cheaper rides to orbit, the satellite behind your internet, your maps, and your weather. And overall sovereignty over space above the nation. So that's what India just bought itself an exit from. More on my article, link below. On top of the global space economy that could hit $1.8 trillion by 2035, India wants to grow its slice 5-fold. And on top of the latter, the moon, where there's ice, meaning water, oxygen, and rocket fuel. Now, let's zoom out. For more than 50 years, India didn't build a private rocket company. It made private rocket companies possible, and everything that grows around them, like a ripple effect, like a butterfly effect. Because space here was never locked up by law, it was locked up by the absence of it. And the moment India finally wrote the rule, the capital and the talent started moving. Engineers like Chandana and Bharath get to build. and what they build become a new economy for the country. These are genuinely exciting times for me, and congratulations to the Skyroot team and India. And I'm curious to know, who do you think will be next on India National News? Hi, I'm Shirley, and I cover the Asian space economy. If you love more of this, please do subscribe, it helps a lot. Cheers, bye!